The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy ho, everybody. Coming to you cordless. Thought I'd unmute the mic there. From glamorous Minneapolis, it's Thursday night, February 12th, 2026. I'm Jim Peters. Welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 315. Mark your scorecards. There'll be a test someday. Our guest tonight is our old friend Don Zorro, intelligence operative, lover of women. Don, we can't reveal Don's identity because of what he does for a living. So he is masked, and we can't say where he's coming from. But we were just doing the video test just now, and like he said, he looks pretty damn hot. So we're gonna put him on right now. Here he is. Hi, Don. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. And you, speaking of being unashamed of what one is all about, I mean, as I clearly am. I love this. What's that about conspiracies? The king of conspiracies now? Is that what you are?
Oh yeah. I've always been the king of conspiracies. You know, the problem is most of the conspiracies end up coming true. That's the problem.
Well, what's the difference between a conspiracy and reality? About 6 months.
Yeah,
Isn't that
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah. You've never seen that before, huh? Yeah, it's kind of
no. This is a new one, but I salute you, sir, in crowning yourself king. That's nothing I like better than a great usurpation of any particular position.
Yeah, well, the extraterrestrials are coming, Don. You and I we don't talk about that much because I don't even know what you think about it. But
they're here and they work for a variety of taco stands.
Okay.
Oh, those aliens. I'm sorry. Aliens.
Yeah, I'm talking. No. I'm talking about the ones from outer space. Are they making tacos too? Is like
well, now alien tacos. All right, so the tacos from Jupiter. Now they'd be really, really heavy. I mean, you eat one of those and you're good for about 6 months.
You got
the ones from Mercury. You can't stop eating the ones from Mercury. So here we are stuck on Earth eating the regular tacos.
Yeah. And the Venus ones look kind of weird.
Yeah, but oh my God, no! I'm just not gonna go. I was going to prescribe a certain way to eat that taco, but no, I think I'm just gonna let that go.
Oh my God.
Continue.
Well, I don't have to tell you this. The people listen to the show are all old men, so it's like they enjoy your.
In that case, no more need be said because they have eaten the taco properly.
That's correct. That's right. So I don't know if you saw this, Don, because this just happened like a couple hours ago. Tom Homan has announced that ICE is pulling out of Minneapolis because they're done
completely.
He said they have since they've been here, what is it, about a month, they've arrested 4,000 people, even with all this crap going on. So
okay, and it sounds to me like the job is done. It's time to make like the old gunfighter get on the horse and just kind of say, my job is done here.
Right.
And we didn't even stop to say thank you, did we?
No.
That's the big issue with Minneapolis is that they let these insane mooks go about and do what they do, make us the fodder for various media outlets every freaking night on the television. But who's really not happy right now?
Who?
Governor Walz. You know why? Because guess what we're going to start talking about again?
Wow. That's right.
You got it. Fraud and the Somali community. So
Yeah,
he's, oh my God, is there any way we can keep ICE here just a little
I
longer?
know. I know. It's going to be brutal and it's going to be bad. But okay, so you and I are both first generation Americans. I know that. I know you grew up in New York City. Actually grew up in Manhattan, right?
Oh, I grew up in the projects in Manhattan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah. So, I mean, the immigration thing is near and dear to our heart, but and now I can't remember what I was going to ask you. I
Well,
had
I
a
mean, just talking about that, and maybe it'll refresh whatever you were thinking about. It is amazing to me how during a time when you really could have had every reason in the world to be talking about the things that happen to people that come to this country, we weren't really talking. We weren't talking about it because it was just kind of accepted that all over the world, not just in the United States, but all over the world, people that emigrate to various countries, they have issues. They have issues that are in their close personal space. They have issues that have to deal with the government. They go, they solve them, and then they just live their lives. I was blessed to grow up in a projects where I heard every conceivable kind of accent that you can imagine. I mean, I grew up hearing Irish accents and Greek, and obviously Puerto Rican. I heard the black folks speak with Jews. I mean, people from Eastern Europe, and it was just kind of, oh, you're from your background's from Czechoslovakia, because that's what we called it back in the States. So
yeah,
tell me about that. And I was speaking to someone recently about the psychology of rumination. And the psychology of rumination basically states that the longer you stay on a particular subject, the more you're going to be mired in it as though you were kind of in muck. And you never are able to lift your feet and get out of it except with massive effort or from help from others who are in the same sort of state. And that's people don't understand that the idea of kind of ghettoization of the various minorities that came to this country was more them. It was self-driven. It wasn't the government saying, "Okay, you Chinese are going to live over there, and um, the Puerto Ricans are going to live over there." We kind of just went wherever the small bubble was, and then the bubble got bigger and bigger until it became what was known as in the 1930s the Spanish area,
yeah,
you know, uh, or the Chinese area, or where the Koreans live. It's just like I marvel at how people just cannot get over themselves. Therefore, we have to say, well, there must be a deeper meaning. There must be something much deeper behind it. And absolutely right. There's always somebody that stands to benefit from the misery of others.
for
And
sure.
whether it's self-driven, whether it's in the black neighborhoods, and you have these preachers, you have the good preachers who care for their flock, and then you have the ones who want to make money. And this, of course, this is the same thing in the South, the southern part of America, with the various preacher, your Jimmy Swaggarts and those guys who just made tons of money off of people's desire for something, some sort of community. So I have to say, I'm getting kind of tired of the things that we tend to complain about that are driven by ourselves because of this phenomenon of rumination, of constant rumination, that's self-driven, and also the people who are able to profit from being able to do it. They become public figures. They take public office as a result, and they take public office for the express purpose of maintaining that, not for changing it.
Oh, of
They're
course, right.
not changing it. There's not one black leader who has done something to better the people of Chicago, the people of North Minneapolis, the people of LA, the people in Harlem, in New York. All of that stuff that's happened has happened through just good old-fashioned fair capitalism and people finding jobs and creating their own businesses and sort of things like that. And it leads me to basically sum this all up, is that what Biden did is a greater crime than people are willing to admit. What people
Absolutely.
like Waltz have done with allowing what's happened to Somali in the Somali community is a greater crime than people really think. So that's what you always have to look for, are the people. You know how they say follow the money? Well,
Yeah.
you kind of take that same approach and follow where a lot of these people, what are they clinging to? Are they clinging to each other, or are they clinging to some sort of figurehead?
So I'm going to almost turn your argument on its head here. First of all, I totally agree, but just I'm going to play devil's advocate. So I've been reading lately. A lot of people have come to the conclusion, kind of I have, that maybe all this, like for example, the protesters in Minneapolis, just as an example, that one of the problems maybe, and this is the thing that you and I, as the children of immigrants, can't really, in a way, relate to, even though life turned out pretty good for both of us, about the fact that maybe America's gotten too affluent. Like, who are these people protesting? Well, most of them are from, I'll just say, they're from white, upper middle class families, and most of them aren't working, and a lot of them don't have to, and so the thing is, so when people are struggling, they actually have something to do. And you're talking about a whole class of Americans now that basically are kind of aimless. So they look to anything for a purpose in life, and a lot of times it's just kind of pointless or
Well,
wrong.
isn't self-justification one of the things that happens in our society? Let's take in point educators. And no, let's go even past that. But psychologists, people that have to justify their existence, and how do they do so? They do so by making sure that people stay mentally sick.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, if
right.
you go with that premise, look at the whole tranny thing. Make sure there are as many people that are messed up as possible. Let's let the doctors make their money cutting these poor people up. Let's make sure that we have these folks on psychologists' couches so that we can sit to go, inventing the next drug that'll help them either reaffirm what it is, because God forbid they should try and actually help them and convince them that they're nuts and they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. And then we go to the educators who are taught by other educators to go and convince people to stay where they are. Okay, in what universe did we ever get to where some guy says, I think I'm a girl, and we say, you know what, that's fine? How in the hell did we get there except through self-justification of these people that look at them and say, oh man, I've got a client for life here?
Yeah.
And so, you were alluding to something that was on my mind, and then it was interesting. I guess we've been working together for a while, but you were really alluding to something that is very important in all of our discussions, whether left, right, center, whatever it is. But understand that everything that happens, every kind of theme that happens, you can make the argument using the exact same words for your side as the other side does. The whole ICE thing is a perfect example about the man, and about how the left wants to crush the man so that the little guy who happens to be in illegal, can get away and live whatever life they're going. And of course, we start saying we got to crush the man. We're just referring to a different man that's
Yeah.
that's doing all of these things, and we want to crush the people that are doing things that we consider to be illegal. It is fascinating to me how literally two people could read the same speech, but just because they're wearing one thing or they delivered a certain way, the other side will see that as wrong, and then the other side will take that speech and they'll read it and they'll make the same points reading the same bit of text.
No, you're absolutely right. The
Yeah.
other thing that happened this morning too, and you probably didn't see this because it didn't really make the major news. Sweden announced they're putting a cap on their population. They have 9 million people right now, and up until 2050, they're not going to let more than another million people in, or even through birth. They're done with it. They're tired with it.
Wow. So it's going to be so now they're anti-immigrant,
Yes.
as well as being pro-abortion. Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, I actually don't know if they're pro-abortion. I kind of assume they are. I don't know. I really don't know.
I think it's Sweden that's been their track record. Well, look at that. Here you have this little country that's just got it all.
Yeah.
And what did I just finish saying? Taking the same argument and having it apply to each side. There it is. I said, no. He said, we like our blonde bikini models, so we're just gonna cool it on the immigration thing. And by the way, we're gonna keep on with abortion as well. We like this 9 million number is just fine. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, I'm joking a little bit, but I don't know if you've seen the reports from Sweden, the stuff that they are suffering under the hands of the people who have migrated there, who have zippo to do with Swedish culture, nor any kind of desire to be part of it or
Right.
to embrace it as their new culture. The way that my parents, who never forgot that they were Puerto Ricans, they still embraced everything that was good about America and taught me to embrace those things as well. And that's disappearing, man. That is just disappearing. Look at this freaking Bad Bunny thing.
Yeah. Well, that's actually, I told you that's actually the reason I wanted to have you on. My only real opinion about this whole thing is that, and it kind of got lost in the whole discussion, is that his lyrics, once you translate, well, you didn't have to translate them, but they're filthy.
Well, okay, so let me say this. Yes, the lyrics are filthy if he had not done the sanitized version of these. For the most part, for almost all of it, it was, how they do alternate rap lyrics, so that they have the stuff you can play on radio. That's basically what they did for the Super Bowl. Because I went and I looked at this stuff, and his music fits into an interesting category. Or let's just say his lyrics. Whether it's music.
Well, I mean, you can make an argument that rap is actually almost anti-music, but because of the way.
Yeah, well, it's anti a lot of elements of music, from what I understand. But with this Bad Bunny guy, all he's basically doing is, ironically, is appealing to a kind of thinking. One of his songs, where he's talking to his aunt about how many girlfriends he has and all that. On the one hand, that's a very, very Latino message.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's also very what our parents taught us we should be. You know what I mean? I'm really not sure who it is that buys into Bad Bunny's music, but the people that do anything more than just dance to the beat. Because as far as I'm concerned, that's really all it's good for. It's just a beat to dance to. And I think people have to kind of understand that, because the songs that he sang, I can just tell you, for me, that I kept looking, but I said, well, this really isn't. It's not dirty per se, although it's about a guy who is a philanderer. Okay, so he's writing to songs about being a philanderer that people buy into, and it's like, oh yeah, he has a lot of girlfriends. Oh, it's cool. Okay, fine. So that's really what one of the songs was about. Of greater interest to me is the song where he was kind of talking about the various people kind of in the Puerto Rican community. He even had like the little shaved ice truck, which we call piragua, and the part about the linesmen that were up and with the lights going on and off, that part. Well, that is a very typical kind of situation in Puerto Rico, where you're always wondering, when the hell is the next power failure going to be? It's a little bit like California, but it's worse in Puerto Rico. You're constantly like, oh, there goes the electricity again. And then how long are you going to wait? It'll come back tomorrow. It'll come back in 5 minutes. It'll come back in a few hours. You never know. This is because their infrastructure is so bad there, and because the local government is so corrupt that money that comes in that should be discernibly taking care of this issue, this island issue that has been a problem for decades, Jim, is not been solved. But of course, a guy like him, who does he blame? The Americans. Because they don't give us enough money to fix this. Well, aren't you also the same people that are saying that you want to separate from America? Which is it? You want more money, or do you want to separate? In which case, you're going to be on your own. You're going to be on your own.
Yeah, can you explain that? Because it's like people are saying, well, the left argument is, well, they're Americans, But on the other hand, I know you and I have talked about this, that every time the referendums come up in Puerto Rico to become a state of the United States, it's been roundly rejected every single time.
Except, and you're right, except that the votes are getting closer and closer and closer and closer. In the same way that New York City and now LA have started to embrace communism more.
Yeah.
And, 20 years ago, you would have said, well, electing a communist mayor, those were always the guys that are on the fringes there. They occupy that little box on the votes of candidates, and they get 300 votes every time that they go, well,
this time you won.
They won. So I think I said last time, it's probably just a matter of another 4 or 5 years.
You're talking about that.
This goes, because I just see this becoming smaller and smaller. So you're right. It has been rejected, and you could at one point say roundly rejected, but now you just have to stick with, they squeaked it out again.
Do you think it's going to happen before 2030?
It certainly could. I can't. I'm not gonna make a prediction. Well, we're in 20. Oh, I guess I did make a prediction. Yeah, we're in 2026. So it could happen right around there. That's what I'm thinking. But like I say, cooler heads may prevail. We have to wait and see. See, everything is now completely changed because of the Trump effect. We have to see what happens with the economy here and how that affects everything all over the world. So, it's going to be a very interesting next 3 years to see what does happen, because Trump's effect is really, it is a worldwide sort of thing. Everything that this guy does.
So how do you think the economy is going? It's like there's two different things going on here. On the one hand, all the markers seem to be going way up. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah, and this got lost in the employment figures, is that it's not government jobs. I mean,
right,
a whole quarter of the jobs during the Biden administration were government jobs. Now
exactly.
none of them, basically. You know,
Right. And Trump still has managed, after a year of doing what he does, has still managed to keep it around the 4 point level. So we just went down 4.4 to 4.3, and in the private sector, this is something, freaking Republicans, man, they just drive me nuts, because I've never seen a bunch of people that are so anti pumping up what they do. This is why Trump stands there and he says, what the hell is with you people? We've got success going here. Why is nobody talking about the price of gasoline, Jim? Why is nobody talking about the price of eggs? Why is nobody talking about the housing industry, which is basically set to now come back so that people can afford homes? Why don't people talk about the fact that these young people who can't afford to buy homes got degrees in stupid shit, and they're not doing anything of any
they do.
value that
Yeah,
anybody wants to go. So they
right.
wind up doing all these jobs, and they're going, oh my God, I have to work 3 jobs. Well, so did your grandfather.
Yeah.
Your grandfather came here, had to work 3 jobs to bring up your parents, and you know what? They were proud of it. They
Yeah.
were proud of the fact that they had to work so damned hard,
Not only
because
did
at
they
the
not
end of the day,
complain, they barely even mentioned it, which is a reason
yeah,
you probably didn't find out till you were in your 20s, you know?
exactly. They just felt like it was something that they had to do, and they did it. They didn't complain about it. God bless our our ancestors, our elders.
I'm
So
gonna get back. I'm gonna kind of go back to this about the fact, you and I both being immigrants, and this is what I was going to mention. This is the thing I forgot. So when we were growing up, I think both our parents, uh, the idea was to become an American. That was the idea. They moved here and they wanted to become Americans. And you kind of alluded to this, and this happened in the Albanian community too, nationwide, that some people ended up in their own enclaves and they
right.
never like learned English, and then some kind of broke away and actually became the Americans. And I guess I don't have a question. I just kind of find that interesting. I was like, what happened? What happened there?
Why did people stop buying into the American dream? Well, I guess there are a lot of reasons. The kind of mental malaise that happened emanating from the 1960s and early 70s, the time of protest. Remember, this is the beginning of us. This is excuse me, professors now that have been telling everybody that we should hate America, and won't teach them anything about the good of America. All these folks have God, I'm getting like you now. All these folks have taken away any sort of desire to, well, you know why it's roiling, because there's so much really in this one thought that I could tie this into the recent Super Bowl stuff, but they have made love of country. How do they think of Reagan? Oh, he's so corny. You know, the moment you take something and decide that it's not cool, this is what all of the professors and all of these teachers in high schools, at least in New York, all these liberals to leftists that were teaching us, sucked the whole idea of being patriots, which we learned in grammar school. Okay, we learned this in elementary school, to be little patriots, to love our country, to love our flag, to know, all these good things. Then by the time you got to junior high school, then suddenly, in those days, back in the late 60s and 70s, it was like, oh man, this freaking country, Vietnam and Nixon, and all of a sudden, by the time you're in high school, oh man, you're missing classes because of the protests. And when you went to college, you were out throwing Molotov cocktails. That's what happened in the 1970s, early 1970s. Meanwhile, the Puerto Ricans in my neighborhood, we weren't about that. We were just like, oh man, I can't wait to get this job. I can't do that. So now that's disappearing.
Yeah. Well, in your case and in my case too, do you think that's because our parents were so appreciative of them of America that they drilled that into us and it kind of overrode the shit we learned in school?
100%. 100%. That's why it's so important to get kids in elementary school. But look, what are the kids learning in elementary school?
Well,
what are they learning in elementary school?
Nothing.
See?
But
nothing that has to do with patriotism.
Right.
See?
Right.
We had assembly. What's the first thing we did in assembly? We did the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. Some of the really cool kids actually knew the Star Spangled Banner. I didn't learn the Star Spangled Banner till I started going to ball games. Yeah. That's when I learned the Star Spangled Banner. But see, even then, I should have learned that song in elementary school, and I didn't. But at least we still had the Pledge of Allegiance.
The really, really cool kids, they knew the Gettysburg Address. You know, two or three nerds in class who could recite it. You know.
Yeah. It was short enough. So, I really.
Well, hold on, really quick. I've never even asked you. I assume you were a Yankees fan, right?
No, Mets fan.
Total
Mets fan because since the Yankees were like the last team to integrate and the Dodgers were the first team to integrate, my father absolutely loved that. He loved Jackie Robinson. Everything was about the Dodgers. In fact, one of the saddest days of his life was when he actually took off from work, which was for him almost impossible. He took off from work so that he could go to watch the ball game. Well, what happened? That was a famous Bobby Thompson shot heard around the world.
He was there, huh?
And that ball landed about 100 feet from him. And all he did is he put his hands in his in his face and just sat there. He probably cried, man. So no, when all those Dodger guys wound up, all those, kind of washed up Dodger guys wound up on the 1962 Mets, he was there day one. Those are my babies. And he stuck with them. My father was a total loyalist when it came to them.
So I'm totally off topic, and I'm probably going to bore the viewers, but I kind of don't care because it's my show. I always get confused. Who played at Ebbets Field and who played at the Polo Grounds?
Okay, so the Polo Grounds was originally the Giants. Then they left for California,
right?
And Ebbets Field was the Dodgers.
Right? All right. Okay.
So when the Mets came up, they played in the Polo Grounds, and Polo Grounds was like really weird. The dimensions were all messed up.
I've seen it. It was like that. Well, they called it the bathtub, right?
Yeah. Because it's just so.
Center field was like 700 feet away.
Yeah, so they played there for like 4 years until they opened up Shea Stadium, and then that was real nice, for them. And yeah, my father took me to as many Mets games as he could. Knew all the players. I was not there for when the Miracle Mets won in 1969, but 1969 was one of the greatest years of my life because two great things happened. We landed on the moon, and we won the World Series. In other words, two impossible dreams.
Yeah.
The Mets actually win a World Series.
Yeah.
And we land on the moon.
And I do want to point out to everyone who's watching that we did land on the moon.
We did.
No, I have proof of that, Don. It's very simple. We launched the rocket. Everybody saw it. That's 3/4 of the expense. They're not. What are they they say, oh, they parked it in orbit. No, they didn't. You're not. It's bullshit.
Do people really say that?
Yeah.
Do they say that?
Yeah, they say
oh my God.
that the astronauts just went around the Earth while they put this on TV. No, it's bullshit. It's just bullshit.
That's hilarious.
I just heard this recently that the modern equivalent of every single Apollo lunar launch was $300 billion. That was how
Yeah,
much it cost to launch every single rocket. And
yeah,
supposedly the reason that they were supposed to do Apollo 18 and they canned it, but it was mostly because of the money. It's like it was
yeah.
like very
Well,
expensive.
we'll get back. We'll get back to the base. I remember being a little boy and having an encyclopedia. It was World Scope Encyclopedia, and they had wonderful uh, drawings of what a space exploration is going to be like. And I can remember the space station photo and the pictures of stuff on the moon that we would have, and I just couldn't wait. So the technology was there before the conspiracies were.
That's right. That's right. And I'll even entertain you here. There's an opposite conspiracy that actually makes a lot more sense. Some people said that the Apollo 11 crew actually went to the moon a month ahead of time just to make certain they could do it. They did it in secret. So I don't know if that ever happened, but then that's plausible.
Launching a goddamn rocket would be
Yeah,
one hell of a secret to
that's
keep,
right.
though.
That's the problem, though. You're absolutely right. It's like they're very large and they make a lot of
Yeah.
noise. It's hard to
Hey,
do.
did I ever tell you? I was on a plane once, and I was leaving Florida, and we had just taken off. We're probably about 5 minutes into the ascent, and the pilot says, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you look to the right side of the aircraft, you'll see a sight that's rather rare, and it's the space shuttle launching." And I saw that thing set it straight up. Somebody lit that candle, and it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous, beautiful yellow red streak going up into the
Yeah.
air, and can you imagine the good fortune of that happening on the same day you're on a plane?
No,
It's
I can't.
fantastic.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. Yes,
yeah.
solid rocket fuel, man. That thing went. It's like,
That's what it was. Yeah,
yeah.
thank God it wasn't a very sad day in 1986.
Hey,
Goodness.
Don, I got to ask you about this. We've been in the media for a while. You've been working. This whole thing with Nancy Guthrie and this whole, I don't understand what's going on here. I mean, the cable news it's flooded, and the thing is, this is like we're 2 weeks into this. It's basically the only thing Fox News is broadcasting, and there's very little actually new that's happening. And I don't understand.
Well, I mean, they're on it because a few reasons. First of all, Savannah Guthrie is a colleague. Politics or not, she's a colleague.
Right.
And also, this is about her.
Too, yeah.
Yeah, and this is about her mother. And so immediately you've got a bunch of people who are all thinking to themselves, they're all picturing, my God, what if that was my mother? I think there's a reason that this is kind of, I don't want to say captured the imagination, but has captured people's interest because it's very easy, it's very relatable. So in the same way that we would be tethered to our phones looking for every bit of information, so goes America. We all want to know what happens with this woman who needs her meds. Now, a very interesting point came up. You keep a heart patient away from their meds for a week, not good things are going to happen. However, you know where these meds are very readily available? Mexico.
Right.
Now, does that mean that she was taken by some cartel or some guy from a cartel? I don't know. I tend to think that this guy was a very lucky idiot.
Yeah, I'm starting to think so too. Yeah. At first,
yeah, that's really what I think is that, and that's why we're probably having a modicum of success right now, just kind of putting it piece by piece by piece by piece. This guy had a lot of things going for him, but now we're seeing where he made a lot of mistakes. He probably threw these gloves out the window, thinking, "Oh, okay, I don't want to keep these for whatever reason." I don't know why you would do that. Why would you get rid of evidence? but with the blood spatter and all this, I think it's a slow moving puzzle. And yes, I get very frustrated by the fact that it's all they have and they say very, very little. So it's this water torture drip of information. But I still have to worry very much about this poor woman. My God. Again, it could be we both. Your mom is very elderly. My mom lived into her 90s, and what is Nancy Guthrie? She's 83, 84, 84, something like that. Easily relatable, especially to people of our vintage, because everybody who's around 60 years old has a mom like Nancy, because they were they had their kids early. So anyway, I am really did spend the very first day that this broke very, very sad that somebody would do this. The whole Bitcoin thing now puts a whole nother element to it, whereas the old days, the Lindbergh baby and all that stuff, ransom something on paper and all that, and a drop off point for the money and all that. This is going to be a battle that'll be won by all the cyber geniuses.
Well, there's a completely side story here that's unrelated to Nancy Guthrie, and I don't know if you've been following this. The value of Bitcoin has gone down 40% in the last 6 months. And I don't know if you remember, when we were on Calling News, I was bitching and moaning. Like I kept saying, well, there's nothing to this. It's tulips. It's like tulips in Amsterdam. And maybe now that's finally happening. I don't know. I think because of the news cycle and the way we transfer information now, I don't think there's going to be some giant crash, but the price seems to be disintegrating. It's like, I don't know, if I got interesting.
I don't think one has to do with the other.
Of course you got that right. But I had to bring that up.
No, but you're right, because eventually a balloon is going to just pop. Now, I don't think that Bitcoin will ever go away, but I think that Bitcoin is doing what it needed to do a long time ago, and that is have a massive correction. And then you'll have all the people that sell what they have and they'll bitch about how horrible it was. And then you have the other people who are smart and just hold on to it and just say, fine, just like everybody else with the stock market. That's all Bitcoin is. It's another version of the stock market.
It is. That's true. That's absolutely what it is.
Yeah. You take a look at your 401k recently.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm going to talk about this later on in our Snooze news, but my cousin put me on last night to the fact that his father lives in Idaho, that in Idaho, some small businesses now are taking gold as payment, actual gold.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Good. Good. I'm all for commerce in whatever form that it wants to take, as long as it's legal and as long as people don't get hurt, if that's possible.
Yeah.
So if somebody values gold enough to take it in trade for a service or something, the hell do I care?
Yeah. I think it might say something about the dollar. I don't know. And I don't know.
I wonder now, do you think we're ever going to go back to the gold standard? That would be an interesting wrinkle in economics for today. I mean, I guess people like things that are palpable and solid, and I don't know why we ever went off the gold standard to begin with, but that's just because I'm not well read when it comes to that particular part of economics.
I said Nixon was drinking too much. That's probably what.
There you go.
And
that was when it happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, Nixon did it. Right, it was Nixon.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
1971. Right, because I hear about it all the time, because I got economists on the show, and most of them think it was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I know somebody who's solid, though. You're solid. So I know you're working out because your martial arts thing go on.
Oh yeah. I have a big exam coming up.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I've been working on I've been doing a hell of a lot. So
And
with any luck,
you
next
can
time
feel,
we talk, I will have ascended in rank
oh,
even further.
that's fantastic. That's good to know.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
actually. Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can kill spies with your bare hands too. There's that
Oh,
also.
I can kill them with a stare. Ginger Rogers too. What? See what I did there? Oh.
Thanks for coming on, Don. I really appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for having me on. It's been way too long, and I hope the peoples enjoyed our little chat here.
I do too. I do too. We'll see you. Take care.
Be well.
I should put myself on the screen, shouldn't I? What the hell? It's like a comedy of errors. That's what it is. Our thanks to Don Zorro for joining us. You know, Don and I go back a long way. I mean, I started doing this 6 years ago at Kong News, and he was there at the beginning. So, just a great guy, always interesting. This is the at night snooze news for Thursday, February 12th. This is the part where I tell you the news that you don't get anywhere else. And I only got 3 subjects tonight, but they're big ones. So, and I don't want to talk, okay, so, Don and I talked about politics. We talked about Minneapolis. We talked about Bad Bunny. We talked about all that stuff. And I got to be honest with you, I'm getting tired of politics. Like I said, I've been doing this for 6 years now. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't. There's other things to talk about, and I got 3 of them here. I think they're pretty important. Well, first of all, I love talking about the media, basically, because I guess I'm obsessed with it. So the Washington Post this last week laid off a third of their editorial and journalism staff. A third of them. I think it turned out to be 100 out of 300 people. And then yesterday or the day before, I think it was the day before, so that would be Tuesday. A bunch of these people who were fired tried to come back into the building to lobby for their jobs, and they weren't allowed. And they were appalled. They just didn't believe it. What do you mean you're not going to let us into the building? It's these people don't understand what fired means. They don't get it. They don't work there anymore. They don't understand. And this is if you ask me, this is participation trophy culture here. These people are always raised to think they're the best and the brightest, all of them. And when something bad happened to them, they literally couldn't fathom it. They could not comprehend it. Just it's unbelievable. And this is happening all over the place. So that's at the Washington Post. At CBS News, they are giving people voluntary buyouts to leave. And a lot of people are taking them up on them. But here's the thing, and this was buried in this story. And this story is, let me see. This was from Breitbart. And Sean Nolte, one of my favorite columnists, love reading the guy. It takes no prisoners. So he pointed out the fact that about six of the 20 producers on the CBS Evening News decided to voluntarily leave. Now that's like an offhand comment, but here's the deal. I do this for a living, right? It's a 22-minute show after you take the commercials out. 22 minutes, and they have 20 producers. They have 20. What do these people do? It's just, I find this just mind-boggling. So you basically have one producer for every 2 minutes of the show. Why? I'm sitting here. It's like, why do you need this? And I don't think you do. That's a part of the problem. All these places are so horribly overstaffed after years of bureaucratic bungling and tinkling. What do you? And this is a reason. Part of the reason they're going to read these people now. There's one woman. Her name is Alexis Healy. Is it? she took a voluntary it's Alexis Hasty, excuse me. She took a voluntary buyout and she slammed the new regime at CBS News on the way out about something about the fact that she was now changing ideological constraints or something like that. And I don't, they're, these people are crazy. And this gets to back, I've been talking about this for like, years about the fact that I think about 20 to 25% of the American public is mentally ill. And I think it's actually increased because of the way we're raising our children and also their education. It's actually probably the education is probably even worse. It's participation trophy culture. Like I said, no one's left behind. Everyone's great. You get a trophy for showing up. You know, and these people, and I hate to say this, I've been involved with journalism either from the outside or the inside all my life for 50 years, and the one thing about journalists as a general rule, as a personality type, they're unbelievably arrogant. And I've never been able to understand where this comes from. I mean, it's like, they do, they observe stuff and write it down. That's what they do. They don't actually do anything, or they don't actually do anything disruptive or productive. They observe what other people are doing and they chronicle it. That's their job. That's literally the definition of journalism. And why they think they're so damn important, I just find mind-boggling. But they do, most of them. And so, and people are making fun of this Hasty woman because of what she's, basically what she's saying she published her exit letter online. I think on X it was. I mean, I don't understand what's going on here, Uh, and so meanwhile, now of course, the reason these people are being let go from the Washington Post is that the Washington Post loses $100 million a year, and they don't seem to understand the fact that everyone, all sorts of people. I don't have to point this out. Say the primary reason this newspaper is failing is because the writing is bad. All these people are basically collectively failing, and they don't understand this. They don't see why this shouldn't keep going. They think they're literally looking for another person to buy the paper from Jeff Bezos to actually basically fund them. And Jeff Bezos is among the top 5 richest people on earth. And he's tired of losing $100 million a year. Well, the fact of the matter is you shouldn't. If you have a good product, you should not lose money. Now, I just discovered this recently. I've gone on and on about the success of Fox News. It's you can't overstate how successful they are. It's mind-boggling. They are the number 2 television network in America, not cable, broadcast and cable. The only network that beats them is ABC, which is fun, part of Disney. That's it. And I'm not talking about the Fox Corporation or the Fox networks. I'm not talking about their entertainment network. I'm just talking about Fox News and Fox Business, which are basically, kind of sort of interchangeable. They're printing money in the basement hand over fist. It's unbelievable. But what I didn't know is there's now a liberal component to this, and it's not in cable news. Believe it or not, it's in print journalism, and that's the New York Times is cleaning up. All these other newspapers are basically failing. I mean, there's a lot of people think that the Washington Post is going to go belly up. That Bezos might actually just pull the plug after a while. But also the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, one of the oldest newspapers in America, they're stopping their print edition. So I think at the end of this month, if I'm right, they're going to be online only. I mean, all these people, and the one thing about that is that I've talked about this before too. You're wondering why are they still printing a print version of the paper? Because it's the only advertising that actually works. It's really, really odd, and who can explain this crap? But you buy a display ad in a newspaper, a printed newspaper, and you will get responses. It actually works. Advertising, the dirty little secret about online is that advertising online generally, basically, unless you're advertising on Google on an actual search engine result, doesn't work. It's display advertising on the internet does not seem to work. I mean, it works a little bit, of course, but I mean, nowhere near as good as display advertising ever did. And that's the reason, that's what's keeping most of these newspapers, they're still printing print editions. That's the reason, is because they can still sell the print advertising, the display advertising. Now there's a thing, and I'm going to be talking about this in a few minutes, about the fact that as of this week, if I'm right, OpenAI is now selling ads against their queries. You know, you ask if you ask OpenAI a question, or like, you know, how do I solve this Sudoku puzzle? It will show you ads of Sudoku books, that sort of thing. It's basically the same as search engine advertising. And I've been waiting for this to happen, and people are appalled, and I don't understand why. I mean, you have to make a living at this, not especially because the AI takes up way more computing power and electricity than search engine results do. And that's pretty bad. So I don't understand why people are bitching about this. I think they thought maybe we'd go entirely to a paid model, but it won't. You know, I mean, right now you get a better version of AI if you pay for it, and that's fine. You know, I understand, but there should be a way to support the free version, and this is what OpenAI is going to do. But and so I expect that's going to be as effective as search engine advertising ads, which has been extremely successful. Now you have to understand this: the Alphabet group of companies, which is what Google renamed their parent company. You know, there's 20 or 25 different companies under that umbrella. The only two that make any money are Google Search and YouTube. That's it. And YouTube's only relatively recent. And the Google search results advertising makes up 90% of Alphabet's revenues. 90%. So and of course Google's been flush with cash for at least 10 years, if not longer. All right, so I kind of got off track here, but the thing is, about the fact that, okay, so the Washington Post is dying. CNN has lost 2/3 of their viewers in the last 10 years. 2/3 of them, you know, and that's become a joke. I mean, they're under 500,000 people now in prime time. I don't know what the advertising rate on CNN is going for, but you understand too, and I've explained this in the past also, they are both bolstered by carriage fees. If CNN, along with Fox News and any other cable channel, has two forms of revenue: the advertising they sell, the commercials time they sell, and the fact that when you pay your cable bill, part of your cable bill, which is the reason it's so high, goes to every one of the channels that's on your cable system. Usually, for most channels, bullshit channels like HGTV or the History Channel, whatever, it's about 20 cents or about a quarter per month per subscriber. But for CNN, which is the legacy channel, basically the very first one, it was the very first cable channel ever. I don't know. I think they're charging $1.50, if I'm right. They get about $1.50 from a subscriber. I don't know. I think it's come down now, but ESPN was getting $7, believe it or not, because right now the only thing really people watch on cable television is news and sports. That's it, because you can get anything else on demand everywhere or somewhere, at any rate. And so that's, you know, everyone, and the other thing is cable subscriptions have gone down since 2010. In the last 15 years, they've gone down by a third too. And it seems inevitable that cable televisions will eventually go out, it will not exist. Especially now that both Fox News with their Fox One app and ESPN have gone what's called over the top, which means you can get an app for your Roku television that you can watch them and pay directly, and you don't have to have cable. And Fox and ESPN, Fox News and ESPN are the number one and number two cable channels in the entire cable universe. Matter of fact, they outstrip. For years, ESPN was number one, and Fox News has overtaken them. But they're still way up there, and everything else is basically just trash, including CNN and MS Now. And you have like News Nation, which is making a really good attempt. They're coming up. They're increasing their viewership, but at any rate, this whole ecosystem's dying. That's what's happening here, folks. the thing about the Super Bowl that was really interesting. First of all, everyone, this whole thing about Bad Bunny and this halftime show, uh, and then of course, Turning Point USA put on their alternative uh, 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 halftime show, and that is they did not, of course, beat the Super Bowl. They did not beat Bad Bunny, but they put up very respectable numbers, and people are starting to realize. Like when I read one columnist say that this was the first time, the first Super Bowl that people realize that the streaming is equal to broadcasting cable, and it is. I mean, it is now. People, this is Americans have figured out how to do this, and we are doing it. Especially the younger generation who basically never watch cable TV anyway. I mean, I'm serious about this. The median age of the average viewer of Fox News is 70 years old. 70. So, I don't know if that's it's going to be, Fox has a chance of holding on to this because of the way excuse me, pardon me, the way they're building this out. But because I mean they've gotten into podcasts now. They've gotten into what they call Fox News Digital, which is they're putting shows up on YouTube and even on Fox Nation and all that sort of stuff. They will not only I expect them to survive for the long term and prosper for the long term future, 20 years from now even. But everyone else is screwed. That's what's happening here. The other thing that happened today, talking about the legacy media, is that this is, as of this afternoon, the Gallup polling people have announced that for the first, they have been keeping track of the presidential approval ratings for 88 years, and they're going to stop. They did not give a reason why. They didn't say why they're going to, but they're no longer going to do it. I mean, they have always been the go-to official thing when it came to the approval ratings of presidents. Up till Trump right now, they're I mean, there's little secrets. The fact of the matter is, during his entire run, Barack Obama's ratings were not that good. They weren't, and the press just kind of ignored that. There were a lot of people that didn't like what Obama was doing, and that was reflected in his approval ratings. Conversely, Clinton, during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, it is very important to note that at no point did his approval rating go under 50% that entire time. He was almost impeached, and he left office with like a 60% approval rating, which is unheard of, because people were happy. The economy was just roaring. I mean, there is of course, it's 25 years now, but there is a distinct impression that people thought Clinton did a really good job, and I did too. I mean, I'm gonna, I'm not gonna. You can say it's I am going against my conservative bona fides here, but I don't care. I'd say I think Clinton did a really good job. I really don't care about whether you have sex in the Oval Office. I understand people who thought, there are a lot of people who weren't really appalled by him having sex with the intern per se. It's where they did it. The fact he actually did it in the White House. And okay, I understand that, but it's such a unbelievably hard job that I think anybody who's successful at it, I think you should almost forgive anything. But that's me. So another thing that's happening in cable, in the television world, and this is also another harbinger of things to come, is the QVC Corporation, which now owns, QVC and Home Shopping Network for years were rivals, but QVC finally bought Home Shopping Network. They've operated them independently, so they still technically compete against each other, but the same company owns both of them, but they are on the verge of bankruptcy. And for the longest time, that was a big deal. Shopping, watching TV was, but now you don't have to do it. I mean, you just go to Amazon, or you go to, Wayfair, wherever the hell you're going, and you watch a bunch of videos and push a bunch of buttons, and voila, you own something, But I'm under the impression that television shopping actually held on because it's kind of there's an entertainment value to it, and not to mention the fact that and this is, um, well, for example, here in Minneapolis, there's a guy on the local Fox television station named Jason Matheson who hosts a talk show in the morning, and I think he does a really good job, especially because his talk show is basically about nothing. They don't. It's like they do not discuss anything the least bit controversial, no politics, nothing. They talk about entertainment, about what's going on in their lives, that sort of thing. It's a hard thing to fill 45 minutes with that, with absolutely nothing, but he does. I mean, for what he does, I think he does a pretty good job, and I know the Fox Corporation, that show is shown on the Fox owns 29 what are called O&Os, owned and operated television stations across the United States, and I think that show's shown on about 9 or 10 of them. But it's people. I've always thought this, which is kind of the reason I wanted to do this show. That is, people want to hear other people talk, and they find it basically soothing, especially late at night, regardless of what the subject matter is. Which is the reason I think I can get away with talking about. I mean, politics is only about a third of what we do here. And like I said, I'd actually like to cut it back. I'm getting kind of tired of it. I have the impression my spidey sense is telling me that you people out there, that you're getting kind of tired of it too. So, but we have all sorts of guests on here. We have psychologists, economists, people talking about UFOs, all sorts of stuff. So I often joke that I get Coast to Coast AM's sloppy seconds, and I do. People go on Coast to Coast AM, and 2 weeks later they're on this show. I can only think of one single time, I can't remember who it was now, where I had a guest before Coast to Coast AM did. So George Nora, God bless you. It's like, but yeah, so I think that was always the appeal. Part of the appeal of television shopping is like if there's a little bit of an entertainment value to it, and humans like to see other humans sitting around yakking. They do. And Matheson's show, which was relatively successful, matter of fact, here in Twin Cities, he outdraws The View. I know that. And even though he talks about nothing of any importance whatsoever, I think that's kind of a good example of that. I couldn't do that 20 years ago. I could have 20 years ago. I wanted to do that. Now I couldn't do it now. I want to talk about something. I mean, here we're talking about something. We're talking about television ratings, and the other thing I want to talk about. And let's move. Oh, one more thing I do want to bring up too. The other thing that's killing television shopping, of the fact that anybody can go on TikTok and sell shit, and people do. And I don't know if you've ever page through the live streams on TikTok. I mean, right now about a quarter of them, or 20% maybe, are people selling stuff. And TikTok basically they facilitate that. They make it easy for you to do that. You can do it, and you can sell stuff. And yeah, so you got your own little cable television channel. Well, actually, you can only do a live show for up to an hour, but still, you can do it. So you want to sell on TV? Yeah, you go to TikTok and you can do that. People are doing it all the time. It's like every single night. I'm just fascinated by the stuff that's on there. There's that, and I hate to be blunt, women who need attention. Those are the two major things on TikTok Live: people selling stuff and women who need attention. And God knows a lot of them get it too. So talking about something that's important or relatively important. Now this is something I've been talking about on this show for years too, and that is that at some point, AI is going to completely upend the job market in the United States, and I think it's just starting now. And this is why there was a slew of articles on the web this week pointing to this very thing, and that is maybe the great job curse of AI has begun. Well, first of all, I didn't know that this week, both OpenAI and Anthropic, who runs Claude, that's their public AI, release new versions of their AIs that are apparently eons ahead of the previous version. So one guy who actually quit or working at his AI company, I can't remember which one it was. I think he worked at OpenAI. He said that previously You could assign AI a task, like write this report or compile this information or whatever. And then when it would come back, you would have to go through it with AI to take out the bugs, the errors, and that sort of thing. He said, now I just tell it what I want and it comes back and it's perfect. There's no editing is necessary. He said the AI will nail it on the first try consistently. So I've been saying for many years that within 5 to 10 years, which is exactly the CEO of Anthropic, he said that his very same thing today, that within 5 to 10 years, this is going to put maybe half the American workforce out of work. And it will. This is going to be completely disruptive. It's really and terrible. So now because I'm a conspiracy theorist and I like weird crap, and if you watch this show, you know that. Uh, I read a book recently. I read the whole thing by a guy named John Sear, and the book is called Told, and his story is that when he was in the British Royal Navy on a ship, and they saw a flying saucer aboard their ship, above their ship. This is like he said he was just in the Navy. He was like 17 or 18 years old. And this was a public event. There was even a report filed on it. I mean, so this is we know he's not making this up. There's hundreds of people saw this, but he said that he's sitting there looking at that flying saucer, and he says it starts to talk to him. Now, you can doubt these stories, but we have a guy who comes on this show regularly named Bruce Solheim, who's he's written 11 books, and one of his books was called Anzar, and he says that's basically same thing happened to him when he was a kid, when he was a teenager. He saw a UFO, and since he's been communicating with an ET named Anzar ever since. He's made this claim. Now the thing is, first of all, I love Bruce. I think he's a great guy. He teaches history at Citrus College in Glendora, California. I'd have to point this out. I have a friend of mine who watches the show regularly, and he says, and my friend does not buy any of this UFO crap at all. None of it. He thinks I'm nuts. But I had Bruce Solheim on once, and my friend saw that episode, and he said, Jim, I don't never believed any of this stuff, but I believe that guy. And he said, and yeah, that's the thing about Bruce. It's like, it's very hard to discount what he's saying. It really is. Now, I've never met John Sear, the guy who wrote this book, but he says the same thing happened to him. Very, very same thing. He said he's sitting on the deck of the ship, and all of a sudden he says he knows that UFO or somebody in it is telepathically talking directly to him. And he also found out later, he thought maybe it was everybody on board the ship. And he kind of started to do a little conversation because he didn't want anyone to think he was crazy. And he came to the conclusion, no, it's just him. And so he has written a book on basically what these people have told him, which is the reason the book is called Told. And like I said, Bruce Solheim's written a book, the same thing. I think that book's called Anzar the Progenitor, if I'm right. And you can buy that on Amazon. I read that book too. But Sear says that the ETs have told him that the primary reason civilizations across the galaxy, across the universe cease to exist is because they get swallowed up by AI. He said they basically become victims of their own AI. And so I'm not. This is science fiction stuff. I'm not the only person who's talked about this. At some point, if the AI gets more advanced, it turns around and says, "Well, why do we need these people? We don't need them." And well, either it actually starts actively killing us off, or literally, we starve to death through neglect. One or the other. And the AI will get to a point where it doesn't need us. Matter of fact, the only thing it would really need us for is to make sure the power is still on. I have and Sear talks about this in his book too, that the only thing the AI can't do is the AI does not have a soul and never will, because the AI is not a human and it's a machine. So we'll never have a soul. And a guy named Brian Trelly wrote his book called Soulless Intelligence. And that's exactly the claim he made. That is, AI will never have a soul. So, and so he says that's what happens. That's the dichotomy you have between humans and the AI is that, and Sear said this too, that the ETs have figured out that humans or humanoids, we live forever because once the contention is that what's going on here on Earth is actually not reality. Reality is happens after we die. That we are sent here. This is a giant school, and we're sent here to work through emotional problems, which is the very reason we have scarcity in our environment because that leads to emotional problems. And we learn stuff here, and we after we pass, we go into another dimension or something where basically, and that's real life, and this isn't real life. That's the and Sear's not the only person who said this. There's a whole bunch of people who come back from near-death experiences and said the same thing. I mean, a lot. I spent there's what about there's about 20% of people who have had serious accidents who said they've had near-death experiences. And who was it came on the show? Was it John Carpenter? I can't remember. And we were talking about this, that people describe these experiences differently, but it's pretty obvious it's the same experience, it's that people don't know how to describe it. That's the problem. There's no like physical frame of reference, and people literally don't know. They can't come up with the words to describe what's happened to them. But if you you hear enough of these stories, it's pretty obvious that it's basically the same experience or is happening. There's another thing too, and this I've been wanting to have this guy on the show. I've been trying to get him on, and I can't remember his name now. He wrote a book on DMT, which is the active ingredient in the hallucinogenic called, oh God, I can't pronounce it. It starts with an A. It's like some real long Aztec name, about the fact that this doctor, he figured out, I think he's a neuroscientist. He figured out very suddenly that people who ingest DMT, they all end up in the same place, basically. They don't have the same experience, but he finally realized that they all talk about the same environment. And there's different beings in there. And it's like, and the descriptions match up, and it's like that basically they go to the same place, and that's weird because we don't share a brain. Although people say that the greater consciousness does, but there's so much weird crap going on. I don't know. It's like, any rate, my point is the reason I brought this up is because Sear says the difference between civilizations that succeeded and failed was the way they handled the AI, and that and civilizations that failed basically let the AI get the better of them. That's what he says. And I used to be neutral on this. I thought, well, I knew that there's going to be this great employment problem with AI. I knew that was obvious to me. And even though people said, well, that's never happened in the past. This is different. This is what's happening now with technology now is different than anything that's completely happened in the past on Earth. Especially because one of the things that came up, this was just a offhand comment in one of these articles where one of the guys, and it might have been the guy from Anthropic, who said that we now have AI is now coding the next generation of AI. And I always said that's when that happens, the game is done. When you have a robotic factory where robots are making the other robots, it's over. And he says in terms of software, that's what's happening now. And so, we've never been in this position before. And I'm starting to think the same thing. I'm starting to think there's a doomsday cycle to all this. And I've only come to this conclusion relatively recently, but what do I know? So, and finally, now this sounds like I'm changing subjects, but I'm not. So a woman named, Deborah So, she's written a book called Sextinction. And the book is about the fact that Americans have basically stopped having sex. Well, we haven't completely, but what's been determined through surveys is that 1 out of every 3 men in the United States and 1 out of every 5 women have not had sex in the last 12 months. And that's way, way higher than it's ever been ever. And so then you wonder why we have negative population growth. Well, that's one reason, but also people, and this is also has something to do with technology too, because like this doctor, she's a neurobiologist. She points out the fact that, you can get on Tinder and you can literally go through like hundreds of potential mates in like an hour and a half, you know, and at no time in human history have you ever been able to do this before. But on the other hand, because you're on your phone and you're not dealing with real people, you don't know how to deal with real people. You don't. And also the thing that we also have now, technology or our media, social media has raised expectations about the act of sex to ridiculous levels. All men expect to have relations with unbelievably gorgeous women, and all women basically are looking for extremely wealthy men. And this was she says this, not me, the woman who wrote the book, and she's right. I mean, it's like you talking about Instagram models. I'm astonished at how beautiful some of these women are, and the things they're all over the place. There's millions of them, and so you're thinking if you're a young guy, you're thinking, well, I should have some of that, and then if that's not what's in your neighborhood, you all of a sudden you're not interested. Well, that's not necessarily a good way to live. Easy for me to say, I suppose. But the whole thing comes full circle, and the thing is, this is her contention is that technology is blunting is blunting our relationships, and I bet she's right. That's we're very close to AI Android sex slaves. Basically, that's going to happen too, and everyone knows that. People are already working on it, because the market for that's going to be huge. But then again, it's like that's not a real person, And yeah, here's the deal: relationships are hard. This is our last show before Valentine's Day. I've been married 36 years. Relationships are not easy. They aren't, because you're dealing with another person. The other person has needs that don't necessarily align with yours. Sometimes not even remotely, but it's still worth the trouble. I had a last show about the fact that about the fact that people are so estranged from their family, and it's ridiculous, especially because most of the reasons are petty. Not all, I know that, not all of them are, but most of them are. And if you start having sex with some beautiful sex robot that you keep in your apartment, you know, you're not going to want to go out and meet real people, and yet real people, I mean, it's worth the trouble. The pain in the the pain in the ass of human relationships is still worth the trouble. And it's hard to explain that to somebody who may not see it that way, but it is because we're talking about the fact. Okay, if Earth is a giant school and this isn't real life, and real life is what happens after we die, well, you're not going to learn a goddamn thing dealing with a robot. You know, if the idea of us being on Earth is to learn stuff, which even if you don't buy the scenario about the other dimension, seems to be the case, because I mean reincarnation, I would say at this point has basically been proven. Ian Stevenson, I've talked about this on the show a million times too. He's based. I think he's. I won't go into it now because I've told this story too many times, but I think he's basically proven that people are reincarnated. So if you're coming, if you keep coming back here to learn more stuff, if that's the idea, until you perfect yourself and you can join the greater consciousness that is some people call source or God, you're not going to learn anything dealing with your robot. You're not. And so it's just, I mean, these are problems, and the problem is that we might be looking at serious problems. And with that, I'm going to leave you. How's that for a downer? Yeah, and I'm laughing. All right. So it's Thursday. We don't do Friday shows here. Like I said, Valentine's Day is Saturday. Go out, have a good time. Take your significant other, you know, I don't know, some restaurant or something. We did have a show scheduled for Monday, and I've been announcing the fact we're going to go back to Monday and Thursday this coming week, but I've had to cancel Monday's show. Now we had a guest too. I'm not going to say who it was because I'm hoping to rebook him on Tuesday. Right now I have not heard back. I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to do shows Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week. So I'm sorry, we are taking Monday off. One more thing came up, but it was important. So we won't be back till Tuesday. But I hope you guys have a good Valentine's Day. I want to thank you for watching. Once again, I've talked about this before. We have been blowing up on TikTok. I just find it kind of amazing. I do because we don't run the show on TikTok, and we can't. We can't run the show on TikTok. But the shorts, man, they get a lot of views, and I want to appreciate you guys watching any way you can. And that's one of the things we're actually working on, more ways for you to watch. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's Valentine's Day. Yes, I love you, even though I don't know you. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. And good night to you, wherever you may be. You guys have a nice weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Okay? Take care.